The complete 1-hour training guide for the Canon EOS digital SLR camera is available to download now in high definition from learncamera.com.
Let's now take a look at the 7 automatic or basic modes that are available on this Canon EOS 550D. I'm a firm believer that these modes are really good at building the confidence of a beginner, as it allows you to focus your attention on choosing and framing interesting pictures, rather than the specifics of how to take the picture to start with. Full Auto Mode. This is denoted by a green rectangle. The camera adapts the settings based on the image it detects. The only input required from the photographer is to frame and ensure the image is focused on the correct subject. This mode is great for giving the camera to a non-photographer and asking them to take a few quick snaps. Full Auto No Flash. This is identical to the last mode in every respect, but you are telling the camera not to use the flash. This is useful when in areas that do not permit flash photography or where it would be a distraction to the subject. Portrait Mode. When taking portrait photography, it is common to make the person the focus of the picture. One common technique is to blur the background. In portrait mode, the camera will attempt to have a very shallow focal depth. To achieve best results, you want to make sure that the subject is several feet in front of the backdrop. The resulting image will also appear soft to improve the appearance of skin texture and subtle colour tweaks to improve skin tone. The camera uses a continuous drive mode to assist when photographing small children or animals who are likely to move. The camera controls the use of the flash. It will also lock the focus when the shutter release is half pressed, so you must remember to refocus on the subject if it moves. Landscape Mode. This mode is for anything big such as buildings, skylines and the landscapes. The camera will attempt to use a large depth of focus to ensure everything from the foreground to the background appears in focus. This depth of field can be increased by zooming out as far as possible on the lens. The camera will attempt to create and capture good contrast and tweaks the colours to give strong blues and greens and to help enhance and emphasise the scene. The camera uses the single shot drive mode as the landscape is unlikely to move. The flash is disabled as it has a short effective distance and will be unlikely to ever illuminate a distant mountain. The camera will focus on the nearest object, but due to the large depth of field, this should prove largely irrelevant. Macro Mode. It is a common misconception that this mode gets you closer to the subject. This is incorrect, and the distance is determined by the lens alone. For example, the standard 18 to 55mm lens will allow macro focus at 25 cm or 10 inches. In macro mode, the camera will attempt to capture as much detail for close-up still photography. It is great for photographing flowers and small creatures. The camera uses a single shot drive mode and will enable the flash when required. There is little to choose from between this and portrait. Portrait optimises though for facial recognition. Macro photography is a specialist subject in its own right, and there are specific lenses available to aid close-up photography. It is also worth exploring extension tubes as a cheap way of getting closer to the subject. Sports Mode. This mode is really designed for fast-moving action shots, where you want to freeze the action and eliminate as much motion blur as possible. The camera does this by prioritising the shutter speed. The camera uses a continuous drive mode to increase the chances of making a great shot. The flash is disabled to allow for faster succession of pictures. Night Portrait Mode. As the name suggests, this mode is designed for taking portrait shots at night. The result should be a brighter image with brighter backgrounds. To achieve this, the camera activates the flash and uses a slower shutter speed. The use of night portrait can prove challenging as the subject needs to remain perfectly still. The longer exposure times can result in blurred images if movement occurs. Creative Automatic. Denoted by the CA label, this mode provides an excellent transition from the basic zone to the creative zone. Designed to give a photographer additional controls over the settings used. As its name suggests, it allows you to become a lot more creative with how you take pictures. If we review the camera's options, in creative mode we can immediately see we're given access to a number of additional controls. Let's start with the flash, We now have the ability to override the camera and either force the flash to be on or completely disable its use. The next big addition is the ability to sharpen or blur the background. By moving the slider to the left, we can increase background blur, and to the right, sharpen the background. If the flash is activated, then this setting is ignored by the camera. Creative mode also gives you control over the picture's brightness. We're able to add or remove brightness using the slider. We can give the camera creative cues as to the picture we're trying to take as well. Standard will be applicable to most types of scene, but we can specify portrait for smoother skin tones, landscape for vivid greens and blues, or monochrome for black and white photography. We have control over the file size, and finally we can control the drive mode and can specify using the timer.